I would just encourage everybody, no matter where you are, to take the time to make sure you're clear on what those core values are for you, and then hopefully that gives you the clarity to make good money decisions, good life decisions.
Thank you for listening to the Interesting People You Meet podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Newground Financial. Newground Financial is a full-service investment and insurance brokerage firm that specializes in employee benefit plans, corporate insurance, and retirement planning. Newground Financial serves the provinces of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Ontario, and Alberta. Find out more at newgroundfinancial.com. Thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting on the Interesting People You Meet podcast across all of your favorite listening platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. By doing so, you are ensuring that more great people just like you have the opportunity to hear from our guests. Thank you, and enjoy the show. I'm your host, Nick Momberket, and I've got podcast guest Joe Curry here today. Joe, thanks for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. We can share the story of how we met and all those fun things in a little bit, but why don't we just jump right in for fun and kind of see how it goes.
All right, sounds good.
Joe is an advisor in the insurance and investment industry as well, based in Ontario. So Joe, one of the things I know you've done is acquired a financial planning firm. So, can you share the journey of that acquisition and kind of how it helped expand your business and sort of what challenges did you face and have to overcome in that process?
Sure. Yeah. So as you know, Nick, before I acquired that business, I was working with my dad. So doing insurance, investments, kind of all over the place, older people, younger people, and kind of whatever would fall into my lap, I guess you could say. And anyway, my dad's still working now. So I acquired this firm. I started the process, became a partner in 2016, acquired it in 2019. But my dad's going to be working for a while yet. And I just knew I kind of wanted to have my own thing. And so anyway, I was on the journey of looking for some other advisors who were looking for succession plans, and one kind of fell into my lap. So we had some conversations, and eventually when they're having a deal come together. And so I know one of the things that you do is help I guess business owners with their building value and that kind of stuff. And so one of the interesting things with that negotiation is seeing how different sides of the transaction look at things a little bit differently, right? So there was definitely a negotiation process there. And one of the things that was important to the other advisor was he wanted to keep his office in place, keep his staff in place, have me work with him. And so because I already had the infrastructure over at my dad's office, it would have been a lot easier for me to run the business from there, a lot less overhead. But anyway, because of the way we ended up setting it up, is I was able to negotiate actually a little bit better price. But then I came into a business that really was focused on retirement planning. So there still had all the different pieces, from a product standpoint. But that advisor, he just turned 70 this year. So, I mean, in his wheelhouse was just all his clients were like mid 60s, give or take, kind of 5 years. So when I made that transition, it really got me interested in the retirement planning side of things. And so ever since then, we've kind of jumped in with both feet, and everything we do now is for, based around retirement planning. Our podcast you mentioned, or I think we're going to talk about it later, maybe is all around retirement planning. So that's kind of where we are today.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, just so we don't forget, why don't we jump into it? Tell us the name of your podcast. What do you talk about there? And then how are you using that?
Sure. So the podcast is Your Retirement Planning Simplified. And so one of the things that I find, you probably find this too, Nick, is in our industry, I think a lot of people are maybe a little bit nervous to talk to a financial planner. They feel like they're going to be judged when they come in and they don't know everything. And I like to remind people, that's probably why we have a job, is because most people don't know everything and they want some guidance. But anyway, one of the big goals around the podcast was to help make us more approachable, right? So we really are just trying to teach people how to retire successfully, and we're talking about the money side of things and the non-money side of things. And anyway, we're just hoping that we can make that journey a little bit easier for the people who are listening, and also just make the approaching a financial advisor maybe a little bit more comfortable, getting a sense of what we're talking about.
Cool. How long have you been running that podcast?
So actually, as of this recording, we're about exactly 2 years.
Cool. Wow. And how many episodes?
So we're getting close to 70. I don't know the exact number yet, but we're kind of mid 60s, I think, right now.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. It's
Everyone
actually,
tells us that if you make over 25, you're doing good. So I guess you're crushing it.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So there's a few people that I've talked to who've had a lot of success with specifically actually retirement planning podcasts, and they've all said get to 100 episodes, and you'll start to really get traction. But this year we've actually seen. I was looking from January to November of this year, we've tripled our monthly downloads. So we're starting to get some traction. It's been great.
Yeah, that's great. I think this is episode 40 for us, and the uptake is it does get exponential over a certain limit. It's really neat. It's cool to see. Say, your parents stop listening, and then it's just other actually people that might benefit from it.
Exactly,
which is kind of neat. It's a cool journey. Awesome. Good for you for taking that jump. Not many people think it works or are willing to to be determined enough to carry on with it. I believe you have a young family, and certainly that's something that you posted on socials about, and you're a certified financial planner. So it's pretty demanding, the work, running the business, having a family. How do you manage this work-life balance, and what advice do you have for other professionals in our career or elsewhere to, navigate those challenges?
Sure. So for me, I guess it was starting in 2022. I really actually cut back on I don't want to say the amount of work I was doing. I want to say the number of hours I was working. Right. The reason I say that is, so I do some coaching through an organization called the Perfect RIA. And, one of their big things is about getting that balance. Mm-hmm. And so I had given them the goal. One of my goals was to eventually get to a place where I was taking a lot more time off with my family, but having the business still, run and look after clients all the ways we wanted to. And so we had a goal around that of actually having 80 days off in a year.
Cool.
And so that was kind of like a 5-year goal. And one of the things that they are pretty big on is what they call extreme accountability. So we all know the things that we want to do or should do, maybe it's to make our business more successful or whatever it is, but it's just kind of uncomfortable to think about or do, so we never actually do it. And so their idea is, well, we put something on the other side of that that's more uncomfortable than it is of actually doing what we need to do to achieve our goals. So basically in 2022, I committed to taking that many days off. And in 2022, it's probably my most productive year ever. And so I think the lesson there really is when you're really intentional and you put in some strict, I guess, boundaries around kind of that work-life balance, like where it actually shuts off. What it does is it forces you to get a lot more intentional, get a system in place for time management rather than just kind of showing up at the office and maybe playing office for a little bit, reading the news, and like you just kind of have to get after it. Mm-hmm. And so it's really taught me, the last 2 years. So I didn't have the kind of those exact strict requirements for 2023, but still pretty similar framework. And when people look at me, when I tell them how much time I've taken off, they kind of think that, maybe I'm lazy, I'm not getting anything done. But I can tell you, I get more done now than I did working 60 hours a week, which was kind of what my first 10 plus years looked like.
Is that a funny goal? I think I heard on another podcast where it was like, you'd promise to donate to a charity or not, maybe like, say, for example, you don't like firearms and you're going to donate to the NRA or something if you don't complete your goal. Is that kind of what it was like?
Same idea. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Nice. I like it. That's funny. Nice. You've played competitive hockey and at the collegiate level in the States, which I think is super cool because I didn't. I almost made it to that, but I envy you for that. How do those skills from playing high level hockey, and your mindset really from it contribute to your success and what you do now?
I think a big part of that is working, playing as a team. Yeah. You as a hockey player also know that, every hockey team has a lot of different personalities. Mm-hmm. And, to be a good teammate and a leader on a team like that, you need to be able to kind of, I guess, understand how to work with those different personalities and kind of keep everybody gelled together. So I think if there's one takeaway I had, really, it's just about learning how to work as a team and how to work with different personalities. And, right. As you're growing a business, I think that's a really important skill to have.
Absolutely. We first met, I guess, over a decade ago at this event called the Top 25 Under 5 Years in the Industry with one of these firms that we had worked with. Looking back, how do you think the industry has evolved since then? And what trends do you see shaping here in the future?
I think I definitely see a lot more focus. Like I see, there's still people who are complete generalists, but I do see more focus. So for me, that focus was really into the retirement planning. I know for you, the focus has been more into the business, right? The group benefits and the business owners. And I think that's really good because it's hard to be all things for all people, right? So, and I think a big part of what I've really enjoyed seeing over the last 10 years too is more of the focus on planning rather than just product sales. I think that has been a shift. Again, it's not everywhere, but it is more of a trend, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I had a planning meeting with one of our clients this morning, and it's just neat to see their, I had taken over from another agent or another advisor, and it was all product, it was all returns, it was all this type of thing, and you kind of flip it on its head, and it's like, anyone can get your returns. Let's talk about planning here, and just the mindset shift is very intriguing, I think, for our clients when we go in with that approach. I think that too, hopefully our younger generation is changing the tone there, the conversation in and around that.
Yeah. I mean, most clients, they want to reach their goals, right? They want to live their lifestyle that they've set out to live and spend time with their grandkids and all that kind of stuff. And I find that the clients who get really focused on returns, I don't think it's really their fault. I think it's that their previous advisors have trained them that that's what they should become the doctor advisor about. But really, the planning is really what people should be paying for.
You bet. Yeah. I had another story where I picked someone up. This person recently left us based on returns like a month ago. And it was like, the planning was right. The gut wasn't ready. The risk tolerance, they just couldn't handle it and, retreated to GICs or something like that and kind of missed out on a big uptick here. So that's a challenge I think we all face as advisors.
Absolutely.
Too bad, but it does reiterate the importance of that planning. But if someone has been unfortunately trained to just focus on returns, then if you're spooked, you're spooked, and there's not much you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Many professionals, I think, in any industry, but especially ours, I think once you get good at what we do, you're skilled, you're a great, communicator, salesperson and whatnot. There's a point where you kind of dream of owning your own firm. What advice do you have for those who are considering a similar path in our industry, especially here in Canada?
Sure. So I think there's a lot of value in working with another firm and learning how to do financial planning right, rather than just trying to go out and make a sale and learn as you go. This is not really in the best interest, I don't think, of clients, and it's not really the best way to learn, right? So, and that's something we really started, kind of instituting in our business here. So we've hired Kate, an associate advisor, and the whole idea is like she doesn't have any sales goals or anything like that she needs to do. She's literally apprenticing under me, learning how to do financial planning, how to take care of clients. She's doing a great job, and she doesn't have to feel that pressure that she has to go out and make a sale. And so, I think that you can get that experience. It's going to be, put you in a good place to, if you want to put out your own shingle or whatever it is, that you're going to have the skills to be able to look after clients and continue to build a business from there.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. It's not like the pressure cooker, the environment in some of the large agencies where you go in and you got to draw and you got to pay a desk fee. And if you suck after 3 months, you're kicked out and you're selling a bunch of stuff that nobody really needs. It's nice to see that.
Yeah. Well, and it also just, it's really promoting being good at sales, not good at financial planning. Right.
That's right. So you bet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the age of your children, but I'm curious to see like how you incorporate your passion for finances into bringing up and leading children. Have you thought about that? Did you? And is there any examples you can share or principles or lessons that you prioritize when it comes to like family finances?
Well, we're just kind of starting to get there right now. Like my kids are 2 boys, 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And so always looking for ways we could try to get a little bit of a handle on them. So so one of the ways we've done this isn't specifically money yet, but I think this, like the next iteration of this a couple of years down the road, might turn to money. But our kids, when they're my one is in JK right now, and they have a warm fuzzy jar. So whenever the kids are doing something good or doing their chores or whatever, they're getting a pom-pom in the warm fuzzy jar. So we instituted that at home, and that's kind of the way right now. So they're they're earning for making good decisions, for picking up their clothes, for doing all the things they're supposed to do without us having to ask, and for figuring things out when they're fighting, all that kind of stuff. So it's not really money related at this point, but it's just trying to kind of encourage those good behaviors. But I see that as we move forward, when they start to get an idea of what money is and kind of the value of money, we start to maybe switch those pom-poms for some kind of an allowance system that works along that. And we have also one of my friends, Jamie Boss, who's a financial advisor in Kansas. She's wrote a few books around money, so we've been reading those books to them. And she also has subscribes to the kind of the philosophy around like the three buckets, I guess you could say. So one for spending, one for saving for long term, and one for giving, right? So that's a concept that we'll probably start to use with our kids as well.
Cool. I like that. Awesome, man. Right off the cuff, you're doing it. I'm going to steal the jar too. I know our kids do that at school. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's simple. I'm going to try that starting today. Over the years, the financial industry and landscape has changed and seen some, pretty interesting regulatory changes. How do you stay abreast of all those changes, and how do they impact your approach to advising clients?
Yeah, I would say any kind of changes coming like that, I don't try to fight them or get too upset about them because I don't really have any control. So we just look at anything that gets implemented about, how can we take that and actually enhance what we're providing to our clients, right? Mm-hmm. So whether it's, having to know our clients better, which just makes sense anyway, or know our products. I mean, we're just going to show how we're actually doing that to our clients. We just got to try to take it and, how can we just make what we're doing better based on those regulations rather than trying to fight it or work our way around it or anything like that.
Yeah. I can count so many meetings that I've been to, like industry meetings where regulation comes up and the old advisor stands up and he's like, I'm done with this, and leaves the room. It's like, I just see that as opportunity for younger advisors to kind of, it is what it is, and you need to adhere to it. And generally it's for the better of the client. There's some stuff that's a lot more paperwork and probably more of an investment in our staff to handle it. But anyway,
the problem is, regulators also have to, I think there's two things. So one is they have to regulate and have new regulations so they can still have a job to regulate. But the second side of that is they also have to solve for kind of the lowest common denominator, right? Mm-hmm. There's all different types of, advisors, skill levels and personalities, and going to make sure that all clients are being looked after.
Yeah, you bet. You've been in the industry now for how long, Joe?
So it'll be just about 13 years.
Yeah, awesome. So you've kind of had some ups and downs and probably pivotal key moments along the way. Is there anything that sticks out that really was significant that helped shape your career to get you where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. So mentors and coaching. Those two things by far and away been the most important thing to my journey and me still being in this business and having some success. If just trying to figure it out on my own, I wouldn't be here today, I don't think. So that's the biggest thing for sure.
Is there any story that can come to top of mind that, you think when you've called your mentor or a mentor and reached out and said like, I've hit this wall or I've got this challenge, and they really kind of help dig you out of it and get you on a path that's a little more positive or uplifting?
Yeah, well, we had, so I took over that business this business like fully in 2019. And by around 2021, we were having some difficulties with staff. And so at the end of the day, I needed to move on from the staff I had, but I didn't want to have those difficult conversations. And so I mentioned that group, that coaching that we had that I do. And so we're trying to come up with some of this extreme accountability. That's kind of, once we were trying to come up with what's the big thing that we need to do. And I had a whole bunch of other things I thought were more important, but I just made some comments that they were picking up on, and they started asking me more questions about what that dynamic looked like. And anyway, so they got me to, make those tough decisions, which, has actually been pretty instrumental in kind of moving forward where we have the last few years. So that's just one thing. I think it's having someone on the outside looking in is maybe helping you see those areas that you just don't want to see that need to be improved or addressed.
Yeah. the industry's changed. Lots of things are happening, interest rates and markets and all the stuff that continues to happen up and down and up and down. And so if you fast forward 3 to 5 years, where do you see the industry? Where do you want to be in it? And what are you really excited about, despite all the noise?
I just see more and more on the financial planning side. I
Yeah.
feel like more people are going that way. The Financial Planning Association of Canada now, I think, is a good thing because they're really trying to push what real financial planning looks like.
Right.
So I think that's all really good. I think for us here, we want to grow our business, continue to add advisors like Kate so we can help more people. And like the podcast is a big part of that. Is as an advisor one-on-one, we can only help so many people, right? There's a limit there, but if we can put good systems and good financial planning in place and teach that and put it out to the world, we can impact a lot more people. So that's really where I want to continue to push our focus.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Joe, we rapid fired this podcast, man. We got through a whole lot, which is totally cool and probably good for our schedules. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about, or is there any sort of key message you'd like to share to Canadians from a financial planner's perspective?
So one of the things I talk about a lot, which I don't think enough people think about, is when we're doing financial planning or just life planning in general, I think the first thing, even before goals, to get focused on is our values, right? So that's something that, a few years ago that I really got kind of dialed in on what are my core values. I did some work around that. And then that helps me now when I'm setting my goals for, financial goals, business goals, all those kind of things going forward, and it really gives some clarity. So I would just encourage everybody, no matter where you are, to take the time to make sure you're clear on what those, core values are for you. And then, hopefully that gives you the clarity to make good money decisions, good life decisions.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Joe, thanks for joining us on episode 40 of the Interesting People You Meet. Joe, where can anyone find you? Where are you located? And if they want to look you up and ask for some advice, where can they find you?
Sure. So I'm in Peterborough, Ontario. The best website to find us at would be retirementplanningsimplified.ca. And on there, you can find our blog and our podcast. So yeah, that's probably the best place.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Nick.